to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. My name is Tom Dutta. I'm the Quiet Warrior, and I'm excited to be back for an epic series, Living with Bipolar, with my guest, Bob Krulish, who I'll be introducing in just a moment. Everybody, we're live streaming. That means we're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. But where do you find that? Well, you found us, but if you're looking to find it in the future, you'll find it on my Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube feeds. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. There should be a button at the bottom of this video when it's out, so that you will get the premiere that will release in the near future. And we finished last time with episode 2. And if you haven't seen episode 2 and 1, still dive in for episode 3, but you got to go back and watch those as well. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce my guest back in the studio with me, Mr. Bob Krulish. Bob, welcome back.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I know I've built you up a bit on each of the shows. Again, I want to do it again just for purpose for those who are just jumping in that, Bob, during Bob's tenure at Nationwide Insurance and Safeco, he saw a doctor for stress and related symptoms. Does that sound like you?
Yeah.
Most people through their careers, everybody at one point see a doctor for stress. And he was incorrectly diagnosed with depression. He was placed on medication that would ultimately cause him to ruin his life. Once Bob received the proper diagnosis of bipolar 1, he was able to slowly put his life back together and soon found the strength to share his struggles with others. And today he does a lot of things to help others, and we're going to get him to share that with us in a little bit. So Bob, let's get right back into the story. The last time we had the audience on here, it was called Manic Bob Part 2, The Dark Night of the Soul. That was the painful journey. We're at the point of you talking about, again, losing everything you had, including divorce, and contemplating taking your own life. And I want to talk about Tony Robbins for a minute, because there's a thread in both our stories. Somewhere in all of this, between losing it all, suicidal thoughts, I saw Tony Robbins, and you went to one of his events. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was March of 2009. I had been kind of kicked out of the house in January, and just trying to figure out how to live on my own, and whether or not I could even survive.
How old were you?
I was, so I would have been 41.
Okay.
Oh, is that right? Sorry, 51. That was 11 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I had seen Tony Robbins before in a small event, not one of his big events, and I've been a big fan forever, Tony's, and so I just reached out and said, I got to do something to get myself out of this funk, or I'm going to die. And I called to buy the tickets and talked to a really nice lady there, and she really heard my pain. And she said, I'm not trying to upsell you or anything, but I think the best thing for you to do is to buy the tickets that are right behind where the celebrities sit, so that you really need to be involved in this program. And I did. And then I got there, and my thought was, this hotel I'm staying at this convention center, is high enough for me to jump off it today.
Wow.
And I went to the event telling the two people I'm sitting next to that that's how I felt. And they're like, oh my God, do not leave our side. And then Tony came out and did some things. And then he asked if anybody was depressed. And I raised my hand. And I don't know if he had heard about me from his staff before or not, but he immediately picked me from the audience. Like you say, there's like 4,000 people here. And he comes down to talk to me about why I'm depressed. And we had some funny things go on at the beginning of our exchange, and I just felt better, having talked to him. He really helped me think things through differently while I was there. And I became kind of like the story of the whole 3-day weekend, in that every time I smiled, they put me on the Jumbotron. and I got the nickname Big Balls Bob from Tony because of something we had talked about prior to that. And every time I'd be on the Jumbotron, the crowd would go nuts, and Tony would be interrupted and go, "It's Big Balls Bob on the Jumbotron." And the crowd would go, "Yeah, Big Balls Bob, he's smiling."
That's hilarious. Everybody, I just want to catch you up. So, Bob, hold your book up there for a moment. Everyone, if you can see that, when screams become whispers, that's what we're talking about. But mostly behind that is this real story. Thanks, Bob, of living with bipolar 1. Now, I want to just backtrack a little bit. If you didn't see the last 2 episodes, by the way, go and see them. You have to fill in the blanks. Get the book. We want to do a review for your book, post it online, everybody. That's how we get Bob's work known. But this is a man who grew up in a home, and it was it was very toxic. His father was violent. He took the brunt of that. His mother was hurt by it, his siblings, and his dad walked out on him. And he experienced that blame all his life unconsciously. And he went through life trying to prove something, trying to find proof that he was loved, trying to find proof that he was good enough. It turns out they called you the answer key, and well, you were quite smart. I mean, very smart, and you would be able to ace exams and A pluses. You went into college and were on the student government and all these great things, fighter pilot training, and you were being groomed in your mind to be the next senator. But you tore it all down. Because you didn't feel worthy, you still were seeking something. But there was something else going on below the surface. And as we learned in the last episode, everybody, and at some point in the book, you'll see this, that Bob was diagnosed with depression and put on antidepressants. And something Bob told us in the last show just blew my mind, that if you're misdiagnosed and there's other mental health issues going on and put on antidepressants, you can become manic. Not just for a day, but for as long as you're on them. Manic Bob appeared. We talked about that. And 3 years, Bob, you were manic. This Tony Robbins thing, see, I did the Unleash the Power. That's why I related to it. And I was sitting in the audience, I think by myself. And I had those moments. And then I went out and I did the firewalk. I still have on my vision board. And when we meet one day, I'll show you. I also have the little baggie with my ashes in it.
Oh, cool. I wish I'd thought of that.
Yeah, and it was in Simon Fraser University up here, which is one of our biggest universities, about 2,000 people. Mm-hmm. And it changed my life. And I'm not going to get into that because this is about you. But what was interesting is Tony helped me understand something deep about myself as well. But it was at that time that I really didn't look at mental illness. I wasn't at that stage where you are in my life where I understood those things about myself. And so you turned it around. I want to get back into the book. I wrote down here on my paper that after losing everything in your divorce, feeling that there was really nothing left for you, and still not understanding the truth about your mental illness,
right?
Bishop, one of the bishops who was in your life, knocked at your door. You'd had 3 eviction notices. You were pretty much living with nothing, not able to pay your rent, and they rescued you. They sent you to somewhere to live, and to a doctor. And you said, "Today is the day I get proof that my actions weren't always my own." So tell us about that moment from the knock on the door. Where did you go? Where did they take you to live? And then tell us about the doctor.
Yeah. So at the time, I had an apartment. I had just gone, saw Tony. I was as manic as I've ever been, and but one of the things that I'd learned was that the antidepressant may not be helping me as much as I thought it was, and so I took myself off the antidepressant, which I don't recommend anybody do. You need to really titrate or take it slowly when you come off an antidepressant. But I just went off of it, and I crashed that manic episode that was being sustained by this antidepressant for 3 years came to a halt, and I crashed, and I was really depressed, and I was I was in my underwear. I hadn't showered or eaten in days, and I finally got to the point where I was shaking violently on my couch. And I called the bishop of my church, and he came out, and they got me some medication to calm me down. But still, at that point, they did not know that I had bipolar disorder, nor that I had just swung into a depressive episode. Anyway, I don't work for a while. I had given away in my mania, I gave away more than $1 million to my ex-wife, and took really nothing. It lasted a few months, but then I was getting evicted from this apartment. And so I'd gone from millionaire to eviction in just a matter of months. And fortunately, the bishop knew a guy who knew a guy, kind of thing, who had an old abandoned cabin on his property that had water and electricity, and let me stay there. But had I not had this cabin, I would have been on the streets.
Yeah, I just want to come back on and interject into that. Thank you for sharing that and honoring again your vulnerability to tell that part of the story. I mean, everybody, the humility of being able to know that you were once, in your underwear and had nothing, and at that low point, and you reached out for help. There was something in the book about faith in God, and
Yes.
Some will say that when you're at your lowest point, that's when we get past our denial and we reach out for help. And so they put you in this cabin. I had this flashback, this movie I saw called A Cabin in the Woods. So I just went there. I started visualizing this. We were watching a home rental show the other day called Hometown, and they were renovating this 100-year-old cabin. And so the same day I'm reading your book about you in a cabin in the woods.
In the 100-year-old cabin, right?
It's amazing, man. So the doctor, you did go to Dr. Palmer. I read that.
Yes.
And they diagnosed you. So let's get into this now. That's really the focus of this last chapter of the show. It's called Bipolar, Bob, and that's a positive. The hero rises and serves as the answer key. And I want to read you something I wrote down, Bob, because you just told us about it, about if you're on antidepressants, Bob taught us something there. If you're taking medication is for a reason. Work with your doctors, but take it. And if you decide to do something different, work with your doctors. I wrote this down here. The doctor said you were given prescriptions and a plan plus a warning. Yeah. This was a warning. Take your medication and you will be healthy again. Don't take it and you will end up in one of four places: homeless, hospital, jail, or dead. I've had patients in all four places. Oh my God. And this was going back to what Bob's taught us, Bob, and I'll give it back to you in a moment on this, that they misdiagnosed him. They didn't find that he had bipolar 1. They put him on antidepressants, and that made him manic for 3 years. Mm-hmm. The average layperson, Bob, wouldn't know that. They would just think there's something, this is just the way it goes. So they did properly diagnose you, and tell us about that journey. There was a lot of 60 different things, 60 different attempts to, just tell us about that and how you got through to your new normal.
Yeah, so I finally get to the doctor. I'll just real quickly say the reason most people with bipolar takes about 7 years to get properly diagnosed after being symptomatic. Wow. and about 3 to 5 doctors. That's the average. And the reason is that we don't go see the doctor when we're manic. We only go see the doctor when we're depressed. So they think we have depression. When we're manic, we think we're smarter than anybody on the planet. And so why would I go see a doctor when he's not as smart as I am? So we don't go see a doctor when we're manic. And so they don't get to see the mania, which would then lead them to diagnose you with bipolar disorder. So for a lot of doctors, they miss this because we don't present the mania when we go see them.
Yeah.
And so I did. I left with 4 prescriptions. He said, let's hope they work. I said, let's hope you're a real doctor. Because I don't know what you mean by let's hope. But then I started to realize that it's quite a journey. And it took me over the past 11 years, I've been on 64 different. I just went on number 65 yesterday.
Yeah.
65 med changes, different cocktails for my illness. And I've been through 700 hours of therapy. And I have a high awareness of the illness now, and I'm highly intelligent about the illness. And it's helped me to be able to be stable and productive and really well for quite a long time now.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Bob, I just want to congratulate you. And for those, you have to see all 3 of the episodes, find the other 2. But in talking to you, if this wasn't scrolling on the screen, I wouldn't know you had bipolar. And so this is a testament to you, Bob, that congratulations on where you have come, man. I'm proud of you. And you're a blessing. That blew my mind, everybody. The teaching moment Bob told us takes, how many years to get properly diagnosed?
About 7 years.
7 years and 5 doctors, because they don't always look for the right thing. I want to just make a comment there because my brain went here that you also, a lot of your work is about teaching, in the book is about teaching others who care for people or around people. Yes. And this is a part that I experienced when I started seeing a psychiatrist because of my own depressive episodes since my injury, that it's me and him. And there's a couple online questionnaires I fill out focused on anxiety and depression, nothing else.
Right.
But if somebody was in that room talking about what they saw, the manic or the mania or the other side of it, maybe that would help. Maybe that would give a bigger picture. Because I got to be honest with you, sometimes when I talk to my doctor, I don't want to talk about that side of it. There's some shame and there's some guilt. So you've given us a lot to think about on that. Something great happened as well through this whole journey about your children. So tell us about that, because I know that's a high point.
Well, I was really struggling with my children. They had really got the blunt of the bipolar. I was put on a terrible parenting plan where I only saw my youngest child for 3 hours twice a month. All those visits were supervised, and that lasted for 6 years. So I do have a couple of children that I don't have the best relationship with, and I have 2 that I do. What I did realize was that the medication gave me a better relationship with my kids. And so I call my medication my kid meds. I don't call them an antipsychotic or antidepressants. These are my kid meds. And this is part of what I do in my coaching program.
Yes.
We talk about how to identify the meds in a different way.
That's pretty amazing. Now, I want to know, is there an easy way to just, if somebody said you're in an elevator, tell me what bipolar is? Is it hereditary? Your father had it. I didn't know that until you told me. Is there an easy, quick way to get somebody to visualize what it is?
Yeah, first of all, it is hereditary. So you have to have the gene.
I see.
And then somehow that gene has to be turned on. When my dad left, that really turned on that gene for me. And so that, and really to summarize bipolar, it's a very expansive mood, the mania. It's really characterized by the mania, although the depression happens about 8 times more often than the mania.
Yeah.
The mania is really the thing that highlights it the most. And it's this expansive mood. It's people that are very impulsive, people who spend every dollar they have and then some.
Yeah.
It's people who have what's called pressured speech. They talk and talk and talk, and they talk fast, and then they have this flight of ideas. So if you're in an elevator and you're talking to somebody who's changed the subject on you about 19 times in that elevator ride, you may be talking to somebody with bipolar.
What percentage of the population, do you have any sense on that, may have bipolar diagnosed?
Yeah, they say about 2%. Although I've also heard the number be about 6 million people
Yeah.
that are diagnosed.
What about undiagnosed? Do you have a sense?
I don't have a sense for that, but what's my work I do in coaching is I work with parents who have a child who seemingly is in denial.
Yeah.
And what's the problem? And they're undiagnosed, or they're not being treated. And there's a different medical condition that these people have that prevent them from being able to understand they have the illness. So untreated bipolar and schizophrenia, I think, amounts to about 6 million people.
I see. Very fascinating, and thank you for sharing that. We're so educated now, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. So, we want to celebrate as we move to wrap up on the last part of your story here, everyone. For Bob, that I love how you are now a beacon of light. You're teaching people that, and you're owning the title Bipolar Bob, and that you live with bipolar. I love that. There's no shame. There's no stigma. I love it, man. So there's a lot of good you're doing. So rather than me read it off my paper, you have certified yourself. You're doing some teaching. You're creating some things. Just tell us about all that.
Yeah. So I'm certified on several different programs to teach nationally. And one program called LEAP that I do quite a bit of work with. I do workshops almost every weekend, almost every Saturday. I do a 3-hour workshop on how to communicate with your son or daughter or loved one that has a serious mental illness like schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar with psychotic features and the like, and how to communicate with somebody who's in denial, who really can't understand that they have this illness and they have another illness on top of their mental illness that prevents them from being able to understand that they're sick. So we need to communicate with that person an entirely different way than we would communicate with somebody who has awareness of their illness. So my coaching program is all about how do you communicate with your loved one in a way that they would appreciate, first of all, what you had to say about their illness, and secondly, what that would lead them to take medication for an illness that they really don't believe they have.
Yeah, that's amazing. Can I ask you, if it's not comfortable answer, but do you have somebody in your life now? Are you're in a relationship?
I am. Yeah, I've been in a relationship with somebody I'm very in love with for the past quite a while now, and we live together. And she's just amazing. I mean, amazing how she appreciates my illness and appreciates all the hard work that I put into it, and just really lucky. I mean, most people with bipolar disorder really struggle with having any relationship at all.
Yeah, and so to that person, I honor them, and thanks for sharing it. It's another indication that you can live with bipolar disorder. Everybody, you can live a good life. When I went to my cognitive behavioral therapy through my concussion, it was a room of 14 people, Bob, and they all had various mental illnesses. It's when I first woke up and realized that, wow, my life's not that bad. And I just remember at the end, I said something, and then the instructor, who was a doctor, corrected me and said, no, you don't get rid of mental illness. You manage it, and you can live a comfortable life with it. The key word is managing it. And I agree with you. The stigma, I think you've educated me a lot here, Bob, that when somebody says or is known to have bipolar, sometimes people just want to stay away because they're afraid, they don't understand what it is. You've just given us so much. So everyone, Bob's book, hold it up one more time there, Bob.
Sure.
All right, When Screams Become Whispers by Bob Krulish. Everybody, I'd like you to get this book, and thanks, Bob. Give it a rating. Post it on Amazon so we can get Bob's work known. That's how authors get known. Post it on goodreads.com. We'll put that in the show notes. Bob is doing a lot to serve the world. Bob, where can people get a hold of you? I know you have a website and book you for whatever speaking help.
Yeah, they could go to bobkrulish.com. So just BOBKRULISH.com and find out all about that.
That's
And they can also get a free chapter to the book. And I also offer a free consult call for anybody who'd like to talk to me directly.
Well, that's fantastic. And everything is in confidentiality.
Absolutely.
So I know it would be a safe place. Well, everybody, it's been incredible. Bob, we've done so much with you. We've done 3 episodes now, the full story, and there's so much more that we didn't cover. And so I want to just thank you, and it's an honor to learn from you. And congratulations on your life.
Well, thank you very much. And it's an honor to be on your show, Tom. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hey, everybody, find this show on your favorite podcast channel. It will be released in the future once we edit it. Also, look for the YouTube premiere videos. There'll be 3 of them coming out on the Tom Dutta YouTube channel. And find your true passion like Bob has, and live with that purpose to make a difference in someone's life. Live the life that you deserve and desire. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca